Gerald Campbell, Rochester, Minnesota, native of Rochester, and went to school here in Rochester until February of '51, and I joined the Army in February '51, my 17th birthday, and spent 3 years in the military in Korea from September of '52 until September of '53. And I was a wire crew chief, and then I became acting first sergeant in my outfit when I was 19 years old, and I rotated out of Korea in September of '53 and back to the States, and I was stationed in Camp Atterbury, Indiana, where I finished out my 3 years, and discharged February of '54, returned to Rochester, and my mother asked me to go in town one day with her. She was going to work, and I said, okay, I want you to go over and have lunch with me. And so I did, and she introduced me to this young lady that she'd been telling about her son. And that young lady became my wife. In 1954 we were married, and I lost her in July of '12. We were married 58 years, had 4 children. My oldest daughter, we lost her in March of 1998 to cancer, pancreatic cancer. And I have a son, lives here in Rochester, and 2 other daughters. I have 6 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren, all doing well. I'm a retired shoe salesman. The last 18 years of my work career, I sold shoes downtown at the O&B shoe store. Prior to that, I was in the insurance business for about 20-some years, and 15 years in wholesale baking business. I was a route supervisor for the old Wonder Bread Company, and much else to say. I enjoying life pretty well. Life's a little lonely now without the wife, but something you have to live with, you know. Yeah.
So did you enlist, or were you drafted?
No, I enlisted on my 17th birthday.
What was that date?
February of 1951.
And why did you choose the Army?
I don't know. I just thought that's where I wanted to be. My stepdad was in the Army Air Corps, and I had 2 cousins that were Army, and I just wanted to be Army, so I went Army. Yeah.
What was the transition like from civilian life into military life?
Oh, not too bad. I guess I adjusted well. I done well. I went to leadership school, and in '52, April of '52, we went on a maneuver from my outfit. We were stationed in Camp Rucker, Alabama, and the whole division, among about 7 other divisions, went on this maneuver called Operation Longhorn in Texas. And one day, me and another friend of mine, buddy of mine, we were sent out to the entry to our outfit as sentries, and it was a hot day in Texas in April. He and I were sitting under a pine tree and trying to stay cool, and a Jeep pulled in, and I jumped up and had to go out and report to who I was and what outfit it was. And so I went up to this fellow and I reported I was PFC then, I think, B Battery, 175th Field Artillery Battalion, and he saluted me back and excuse me. He said, "Where's your command post, soldier?" And I said, "Well, sir, you veer to the left and the mess hall and the command post right behind it." All right. And I saluted him back and he saluted me, and I noticed on his helmet captain's bars and the name Murphy, and nothing unusual there. In fact, I married a Murphy, but anyway, about an hour later we went to the mess hall and the cook said, "Look who's in the back there." And it was the one and only Audie Murphy. You probably heard of him. He was the most decorated soldier in World War II. He had everything from the Medal of Honor all the way down. And he was in the Texas National Guard, the commander of a tank company. And so a lot of us were gathering around. He was only, I think, 27, 28 years old at that time. But it was a real pleasure meeting him. And then when the maneuver was over, we all passed in review in front of all the brass, and standing out in front of all the brass and on the track was Audie Murphy. He went on to Hollywood, made some movies, and then he died in a plane crash back in the 70s sometime, I think. But that was quite an experience to meet him. Just before Christmas, 52, a U.S. Osho came to entertain us. They came to our outfit, and the actress by the name of Jan Sterling and her husband were in the cast that showed up, and they got up on a flatbed truck, and they come to a skit they were going to do, and the premise was that Jan Sterling's boyfriend had jilted her at the altar, and she heard that he was in Korea, and she was looking for him. And like I said, they were up on the back of a flatbed truck. We had about 3-4 inches of snow the night before, so we were sitting in the snow on our helmets, and she's looking out in the audience there for this guy that jilted her. And pointed to me. So they come down and got me and took me up on this stage that they had, performed this wedding. And so I was kind of the pride of the guys that day. She put a yellow ribbon around my neck with perfume on it. Oh yeah, that was a big day. And then in that same month was a month after Eisenhower was elected president, and he said, if at the time if he was elected president, he was going to Korea. And he did. He showed up in Korea in December of 52, and he came to our B battery, and I happened to be there. I was laying wire that day with my crew, and we went into B battery, and Ike was there. Excuse me. And he was eating with a young fellow from his hometown of Abilene, Kansas. And then in June of 53, we got overrun. Our A battery and our B battery took heavy casualties. And this young fellow that Ike was eating with that day from Abilene, he was killed. And Ike was notified. And then he, in turn, got a hold of his parents in Kansas and told them about the fact that he'd had Christmas dinner with him and all that. Yep. That's the kind of guy he was. And that was kind of interesting in that Ike did what he did, but he was a great man too. Better than what we have today. Yeah. But all in all, my 3 years was pretty good. I was fortunate that I got there and back. And I went back in '08. I returned to visit. And I just couldn't believe what the Korean people have done since that war's over. I mean, they've built one beautiful, beautiful place. That Seoul is probably one of the most beautiful cities in the world. There's 12 million people. And they all live in these giant high-rises all over, spread all over there. Clean as can be. And we got a great, great reception there. And went up to DMZ. And the last night we were there, they had a banquet for us all and called us up one by one and hung the Medal of Freedom around our neck. And they really treat veterans great. I have a grandson who just returned from there. He was over there for a week, and like me, he was really impressed with what a wonderful place it is and what they've done. And he told me they're in the process of building a skyscraper, and so 104 stories high. Be one of the highest in the world, I guess. Yeah.
So can you tell me some specific dates? Like when did you arrive in Korea?
I arrived in first week of September of 52.
And where did you arrive?
Well, we went in at Incheon and then went up to Seoul. And from there we got assigned to our units, and I was assigned to the 424th Field Artillery Battalion, which at that time, and most of the time, was serving up in the Central Front in what they call the Iron Triangle area, Kumwal Valley. I was assigned to headquarters, where I first started out as a forward observer, and then Captain arrived at headquarters, and it happened to be a captain that was my CO in the States. And I came down one day from the hill, and they were talking about this new captain that took over command of the battery, and his name was Smith. And he had this idea for showers, and I knew who they were talking about because we had this Captain Smith had the same idea when we were on maneuver, making showers out of 55-gallon barrels and copper tubing and so on. So I knew who it was, and I went over to Fire Direction Center, and there it was, Captain Smith, the CO I had in the States, and he said, "What are you doing?" So I said, "Well, I'm up on the hill. I'll get you off of there," he said. So he got me down and put me in the wire section, and I became a wire crew chief. And I done that until the end of the war in July, and we pulled back and we pulled in our new area, and Captain Smith said, "Sergeant Campbell, put your gear in my tent." So a buddy of mine said, "I think that means you're the new first sergeant." And I was 19 years old, and he made me acting first sergeant, and I had that until I got out of there. I got out of there in September then of '53, 2 months after the war ended.
So where were you when the armistice was signed? Where were you when the armistice was signed?
We were right there in the Comoe Valley. Yeah.
So what did it feel like when you got the news?
Yeah, phone rang about 11 that night in my tent, phone, and I went and picked it up. It was Captain Smith. He said, "Sergeant Campbell, it's over." I said, "What's over?" He said, "You signed the truce today." Oh, that was it. Yeah, July 27th, 53. Yeah, and she was over. So we pulled back then. We had to pull back a couple thousand meters and part of make it a DMZ, and say that was July, but I stayed till September. I got out of there in September.
What was the general atmosphere like when you guys got the news?
Oh, everybody's pretty pleased. We're going home. We're going home. Yeah, it was good news. 37 months, and was it about 50? Was it 48,000 killed in action in Korea, something like that? Yeah, much higher body count than Vietnam. Monthly body count was roughly 1,400 a month, something like that. Yeah. And we were not fighting the North Koreans very often. It was mostly Chinese. Yeah. They were the big force. And when they came at us in that last spurge in June, a month before the war ended. They came at us. And they said it was 100,000. They come boring down from over the other side of the Iron Triangle down through the Comoe Valley, and that's when they overrun our A and B battery and took very heavy casualties. I lost a buddy in headquarters, and yeah, they were the biggest enemy, the Chinese.
So while you were stationed in Korea, are there any stories that you remember? Anything that stands out?
Well, yeah. As I say, I was a wire crew chief, and I would get a call that we had a break in the communication somewhere, and I'd get one or two guys, and usually two other guys, and we'd jump in the truck, head out to find the break, and I had a 30 caliber machine gun mounted on that 3/4 ton that we used for going out, for the primary reason that the Chinese had a little trick they'd pull. They would cut our wire, knowing, of course, that we're going to be out there to repair it. So they'd kind of lie in ambush from where the break was. They'd be off in the woods somewhere, and they knew we were going to be out there, and then they'd ambush us. So I had this 30 caliber mounted on a 3/4 ton truck, and this happened one night. It was pretty late in the evening, and the three of us went out in the truck, and I was out looking for the wire and the brake, and all of a sudden, one of my guys, I had him on his 30 caliber. I heard it. Sure as hell, a couple of Chinese come out of the woods, and he nailed them. He got them both, or they got us. Yeah, that was one incident I remember real clearly. I lost just one buddy, and real close to me, and he was killed by a mortar round that came in. We were out one day, and a mortar round came in, and shrapnel got him, cut him all to pieces. The Forgotten War. That's what it was.
What were your duties?
What I did, I was a wire crew chief, and that's our communications was largely wire communications. We also had some communication by I'm trying to say that. But wire was telephone, and that was, we also had radio communication, but radio communications was not real good in that area because of the hills and that. So we relied on telephone, and as a wire crewman, my job to see that those communications were always going. We had up to our observation post and all our firing batteries, and it was my job as a wire crewman, and then I became a wire crew chief to go out and fix any wire that were cut or damaged in fire or whatever. And that was pretty much it. That was my job. And I say, when the war ended in July, we pulled back, and we're pulling a new area, and my CO was standing there, and he said, Sergeant Campbell, he said, put your gear in my tent. My buddy with me, he said, you know, I got an idea that you're the new first sergeant. Our first sergeant rotated just a few days before that, and he was right. Captain Smith made me acting first sergeant the last 6 weeks I was there, I guess. And that was good. Give me another stripe. And he and I were real close. We got together after the war. He was from Madison, Minnesota. And like I say, I had him in the States and in Korea both. And I went and visited him a couple of times after we got home, and back at the Legion Post in Madison where we met. But he's gone now, of course. Of course, big share of the guys, we're having a reunion next month of my outfit in Burlington, North Carolina. It's on the 16th, 17th, and 18th of September. And I'm maybe considering going out. My son gonna go with me, and we thought we'd fly out if we go. I'll be meeting for 3 days, and I thought about driving 1,540 miles. We'll fly. If I decide to go, we'll be going out there next month. Right now, we'll be leaving. Yeah, see, today's the 18th and 19th. Yeah, we'll be done by then. Yeah.
So when the armistice was signed, the few months you were there after that, what was it like?
Oh, pretty much nothing. We just maintained our positions. Like I said, we had to pull back after the ceasefire, and we just set up in a new spot and didn't do much but carry on our daily activities and more like being stateside. We didn't went out and marched and done the normal Army routine, you know, and the always, of course, with be aware of the fact that truce might not hold. They could do something bad, and they didn't, but you were always told to be aware, you know, that they could start it over again, but they didn't.
And what was the date that you rotated home?
I got out of there September of '53. Yeah, 2 months after the war ended. I extended. I could have come home right away, but like I say, my CO made me the acting first sergeant, so I stayed. He said to me, "You don't want to go home now. Go back to all that chicken crap." He said, "Might as well stay here with me," and because he made me the acting first sergeant, and then he got me another stripe before I rotated. So I got out of sergeant first class. Yeah.
And what was your date of discharge?
February of '54.
Where did you finish up your time?
Camp Atterbury, Indiana. The last 2 months I was in, yeah. Yeah. And I had a real light duties there. Didn't do much. They activated outfit out of Georgia, I think, and I was put in that unit, and I didn't do much. As I say, I had the sergeant first class rank, and I was just kind of a barracks chief and showing these new guys what it's all about, and drilling and stuff like that, going out in the field. Had it pretty easy. I got a lot of time off when I wanted it. Go here, go there, no problem.
And what have you done since that time?
Well, I came home. I got out in '54, and I went to work at what was formerly known as the Rochester Bread Company, which over here ways on 11th Avenue, and I worked in production, and then I went into shipping clerk, and then I went driving semi, and then we got a new manager, and he called me in, and I don't know if I wanted to go into sales. I went into route sales, and I became a route salesman, and then we became We were bought out by Continental Baking Company, which was Wonder Bread, and I became a route supervisor. And then in 1968, I went in the insurance business, and I was in that for about 20 some years. And then I ended up my last 18 years in sales was as a shoe salesman downtown here at O&B Shoe Store. Yeah. In sales all my life, yeah. Yeah. Bread, insurance, and shoes.
What kind of life lessons do you feel like you learned through your military service?
What did I learn? I learned that the United States Army at that time was second to none. I don't know about today. I don't think. Oh, we got good troops, but we're not up to where we should be, I don't think. Obama has a tendency to kind of cut back on our military, which is, I don't think, a good thing in the way the world is today, you know. We should be probably beefing it up, if anything, but the experience you get from being in the military is a wonderful experience if you can go in and survive and get home and, you know, pick up where you left off. That's important, yeah. But yeah, it was 3 years of great experience.
Do you have any message that you could pass on to younger generations?
Be faithful to your country and don't let anybody try and destroy what we know as Americanism, and be allegiant to your country and all it stands for. And if you end up going in the military, just be a good soldier, whatever.